This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so I think in last session we started creating one of the component. So this is the component. The first thing we need to show that component to override one of the standard action. Further, the main thing we need to inherit one of the interface lightning action override. So this allows this component to show while overriding the standard actions. So already we did that. Okay, we have overridden. Think go to one of the application. We have overridden one of the account. Sorry, I think contact a new button. So open one of the contact. So now whenever we click on new, now whatever we are seeing instead of the standard UI, so we are seeing this is our custom logic whatever we wrote. So the main thing for the look and feel in the Lightning Design System website, we have model. So by copying from that, we generated some of the model UI, and this is a basic form, and we have buttons and everything. Now this time, without writing any Apex code, okay, so I want to save this record into database. Okay, so before we do that, I think we are also done with this. So this one now somehow the pick list values I gave something as none. We want to make it dynamic. We want to dynamically get the pick list values of this whatever the field you want. Maybe now lead source going forward salutation or some other pick list field values if you want. First, let's see how we can generate one of the reusable component. Now we are trying to achieve this requirement. Yeah, so for that, so I'm going to create one of the component with the name. So maybe let's say pick list values. Maybe here whatever I'm keeping, let me follow that. So with this name, I'm creating one of the component. So this is a component. So now the main thing, how we can make it reusable. So let's say we are going to introduce few attributes. Which object and which field? What is the pick list field? Okay, when you supply those two as inputs to this component, it has to make one of the server call and make the all pick list values dynamically. Maybe the values, whatever it returned, to store that we need one more attribute. Right? So two attributes for input and two attributes for storing the result. I'm going to define here. So name, I'm giving the name as object name, and also here type should be string. I'm giving this string. So this is one of the attribute, and one more attribute, the field name. Field name, again it is a string I'm taking, and the pick list values to store are attribute name pick list values type. You can maybe say list of strings, each and every pick list value. I'm taking these three attributes. So now maybe we don't want any UI. Okay, so all we want whatever the values this we are going to use in the component where we refer this. Okay, so these are attributes, and now on load, again we don't want to click anywhere. On initiating this component, automatically it should call one of the controller function From there, it has to make the one of the apex method call and get the pick list values dynamically and store into this. So to call the function automatically on loading the component, there is a system event. So we need to handle that, right? Or a handler name init. Value init is the name of the standard event. While handling, we give like this name init. Value always we give as this action. So what exactly you want to call? Let's say c dot. I'm going to define a function with the name doInit. Okay, so now go to the controller of this component, controller JS. The controller JS, maintain the name as doInit. Here I want to use the short form. Taking from here we have to make the apex method call. So that means we should have a apex class, right? And we should be ready with a method where based on the object name and based on the field API name. So it has to return the list of pick list values. Okay. So for that, so press F1, apex class, pick list values controller. This is the name of the method. Deleting, now removing this. And I'm defining a method. So Aura enable. Maybe for now I don't want this. And method name, let's say get pick vals. And so obviously it has to return the list of values, pick list values as a input. We're going to take object name and field name, right? Field name, both we are going to take as input. So once someone apply this to this method, so I have to return the list of values. I'm preparing one empty list. Let's say these are options, new list of string. For now, to save this options. So now we have to populate those options in the dynamic apex. I think already in development we saw how dynamically get the information. Maybe again quickly let's do that. So we have a concept called dynamic apex. Using that we can do. Okay, so go to developer console from anonymous block. So I'll quickly execute and refer that. So here we have actually schema dot get global describe. Okay, so this give all the information in the string comma schema dot as object type in a map format. From this, if you want a particular object, provide that object API name. For now, I'm hard coding. Later we replace. Okay, so contact. So contact, it gives the information in the schema dot as object type. Schema dot as object type. So in that, to get more details, I think we need to describe. I'm going to describe so that we get more details of this object in the described as object result. And again, if you go to that, I want all the fields, right? To get all the fields, dot fields, and if you want to get all these fields in the map format, get map, and this all the fields in the map format. Dot. So get, we need a particular field. For now, I'm hard coding lead source. Okay, so now this field in the schema dot as object field type, somehow in that format it will give. So I'm not finding any class for that. So let's schema dot as field type. A subject field, I think in this format, it returns that field. Okay, from that, again, we need to describe and get more details. Dot get describe. When we describe, it gives in describe result, field result format. From that, I want all the pick list values. Okay, so this gives all the pick list values. System.debug. Okay, so let's execute. Click on debug only. I think all the values we are getting. So this is what we want. Now, what we do, copy this quickly. So go here. We are going to iterate over this result. All these things will come in. It will return in schema.picklist entry, right, in that format. Actually, schema.picklist entry, iterating over each and every picklist entry. And all I need is label for each and every picklist value. So dot add from the picklist entry class. Again, if you see that class, you see a method get label. Get label. We are getting that label and adding. But here, since it should be dynamic, instead of this object, we give instead of that field name. So whatever the field names applied, that name. So that's it. This is one of the method. Okay. So now we need to associate this class from that component. Go to component UI here to associate to that class controller. This is the way how we associate. Now in the JS controller of this component, we can refer the method, right? This is the method in that class. We have to call that. So for that, right, action equal to component dot. Already many times we are doing this. C dot the name of the method. Now action dot set params. So we have to supply the parameters in the object format. In that key and value. Here again, if you go to that method, it is expecting exactly same we have to give here. Okay. So subject name. So for now, I know that it is contact. I'm just giving contact and comma and also field name. So exactly same name we have to follow field name. So I'm giving the field name as lead source. We have to give the proper API name, right? Lead source. Okay, so these two we are supplying to this method. So now I think we are good. Just call that $a dot enq action. Call this action. And now to handle the callback, action dot set callback. Callback accepts two inputs, this and the callback function. This function will have the overall response. From that, I want to know what is the overall state. State is equal to response dot get state. Okay, so now we get to know overall it is succeeded or not. if state is equal to triple equal to success, in case of failure, in case if there is a failure else, so maybe console.log. So I want to print that failure message in the log. Okay, so maybe I'll say response dot get error. Okay, maybe I'm printing in the log in case of error. Success scenario, we know what we get is the list of pick list values, right? So to get that real response dot get return value. So this is nothing but the list of pick list values for lead source, right? So let's say pick list values storing into that. Finally, we have an attribute in the component. Into that attribute we are setting. To set the value into the attribute component dot set. To refer the attribute v dot name of the attribute, to make sure that we are given same name. So that's the name. And here these values we are going to assign. So that's it. So now this component, what exactly it can do, whenever we refer this component by supplying the subject name and the field name, this will take care of holding the pick list values into this attribute. Let's see how we use this component. Now we are done with creating that component, and we are ready to make use of that. Okay, so now to refer that component, somewhere on the top, just I'm referring C. Our default namespace is C. Pick list values, that's the component name. S object name is the attribute. Let's say I'm supplying contact, and the field name I'm supplying lead source. Lead source is the field name. And how we get the values, what it holds into this list. Right? That's the main thing. If you remember, we have two-way data binding. What I do, similar kind of attribute, or if you want, you can also define with the different name. That is also fine. Let's say I'm defining. And what I'll do, this attribute, I'm supplying this. But this is dynamic now, right? So when you say exclamatory symbol and refer like this, if there is a change in the child component value, that will automatically reflect into parent. Now, since to this attribute, we are supplying this attribute. If there is a change in this attribute in the child component, automatically that will again reflect over to this, because due to the two-way binding, one of the concept. So all we need to do, refer that component so that all the pick list values will be into this attribute. Yeah, that's what will happen. Okay, so now we have the pick list values into this. Now here we are going to iterate over that, and we are going to show. Okay, so that's what I want to do. Okay, so now here to iterate, we know how to iterate. Aura iteration. We use Aura iteration. Here for items equal to, sorry, here v dot name of the options. Okay, now for each and every item, let's say I'll say pick val So we are going to show here, right? So that's what we are going to do. And also maybe we have value attribute. So there also, if you want to refer, because it is dynamic, we need to refer like this. Okay. So that's about. Now due to this, we have to see multiple pick list values. Okay. Let's see really it is working or not. Go back and just refresh. Click on new. Now if you see, you are seeing all the pick list values, phone inquiry, purchase list, and everything. So like that. So it's working. Okay, so that means we are done with this subtask. But before we complete this, let's say due to some reason there is a already default value. So there is a default value already selected, right? So maybe somehow, let's say maybe we are loading the existing record. If you want to highlight, the already selected value, right? So when you show all these options, which is the selected one? So for that, maybe we can also use Aura. I'm using Aura is true. Here what I am checking v dot. So we are storing the information into this. Somehow it is having a default value. Okay, so what we can do, I'm checking is that value is equal to, right, equal to whatever the pick list value we are iterating, both are matching. So then it enters inside, and I will write the logic to highlight. Otherwise, in else situation, now whatever we have at present, that should be in else. For else, we use Aura set. For else, maybe as it is now, whatever we are showing, attribute else. Right? This is to represent else. If this is matching, okay, for option, we see one more new attribute selected. In general, in HTML, to represent it is selected or not, we say selected. Okay, so that's what I am giving. Okay, so somehow if this is matching, that means we have to highlight that pick list value as a selected value. Okay, so these kind of things we do. Okay, so maybe all these things like a subtask daily, keep on, we try to improve what is there. Okay, so that's it. So with this, I think we completed one of the subtasks. We introduced one of the pick list value, and so we are doing. So now, instead of writing the Apex method using the Lightning data services, we are going to save that record. Okay, so let's understand about the Lightning data service. Using the Lightning data service, you can perform all the CRUD operations: create, read, edit, delete. Maybe there are, I think I cannot cover everything, right? I take one of the example and cover. Based on the need, the other operations also we should be able to do. Okay, so now based on this, now mainly I'm going to use this Lightning data service concept to save our record into the database. Right now, maybe to avoid confusion, I'm closing this subcomponent. So now here, so one of the core way of implementing the Lightning data service is using force record data. Here there is a attribute, there is a component. Using that, we implement the Lightning data service. But nowadays even more advanced components to make our job even more easy. So we have lightning view form, lightning, so edit form, right? So lightning record view form, record edit form. We have record form. There are some components are there. Those will make our job even more easy, but we'll discuss about those little later. This one, the core concept also we should know. So if you want to understand, go to this the component library. Look for force colon record data. Record data. Right. This is a core component. So using that, so we can perform the DML operations. Right. So you can see provides the ability to create, read, update, and delete Salesforce records. Okay. So I'll take maybe one example and I'll explain. Okay. So this is the base. If you remember to type, it is fine. Otherwise, so mostly practically no one want to remember. Maybe you cannot remember mostly. So from here on top of this, we implement our logic. Okay? I'm just copying that. So maybe here this is for the contact, right? I'll say new contact record. This is the ID I'm giving, and the record ID. Anyway, we are saying it is a new contact. So in case if you are trying to edit or if you want to view the record, this will be needed. So I'm just let's say we are referring. Okay, but record ID maybe as soon as you inherit one of the interface, force colon has record ID. So no need to define this attribute. Even that is a system attribute. By default, that will be there. Maybe I'm not defining, still I'm keeping. And also which data we are dealing on the UI. So here we know first name, last name, email, mobile phone, all those things. It's better to include all those, right? So I want let's say ID and first name, so last name, email, mobile phone, and lead source. These are the fields we are dealing. And maybe to hold this information, right? This new record is there, right? Already we have a new record. I mean, this new contact, one of the attribute. This, the whatever we populate should load into this. Okay. So through this component. So that means in this, whatever the data is there, that should be considered in the record while saving. Okay, so we have to point to that one. And this is when in case of any error, so that will be useful. Maybe you can define one attribute for that to hold, right? So maybe I'll say we are not loading, basically we are trying to save. You can give some name, whatever you feel. So that's it. So this is the one, and now you want to, right? So you want to view the record, or you want to maybe create the new record or edit the record. So based on that, we have the mode. Okay. So if you go to the specification, you see a mode. By default, view mode. You can also say edit. So in edit mode, you can either use to save or maybe modify the existing. So I want mode as edit. Okay. So additionally here, giving mode is equal to edit. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so now what exactly we have to do? We have to create a default template. Now, if you see here, I'm not using any default value into this new contact attribute. So through Lightning Data Service, when you are creating a new record, we can create a empty template, empty structure value into this attribute. For that, to do that, as soon as the component is loaded, immediately it has to call a function and it has to load the data. I mean, it has to prepare that empty template to create the record. Okay. So for that, already we know on load, if you want to do something, we have this Aura handler name for us, this init. So value, always this should be this, an action. But let's say I'm going to define a function with the name doInit. In that, we are going to place the logic to create the empty template. Okay. So now on load in the doInit to generate that empty template, we are going to write the logic, right? So go to the controller.js of this component, doInit, giving the short form. Right now here, we need to load the empty template. Maybe in the example, you might see some of the example. Okay, so here maybe they did not give. So anyway, so all we need to do, we need to find this based on the Aura ID. We need to find this component dot find, provide that Aura ID, it will find that, right? So now to create a new record, so maybe you can also see documentation for that. Some methods will be there. So if you see here, get new record, loads an empty record template into the whatever we in the target fields we give into that one, right? I want this, okay? And also if you see, this takes, so all these things as arguments, object API name and record type ID. So this is just a local cache if you want to store or not. And the callback, what is the response after it is creating the template callback. Okay. Type unknown means it won't return anything. So when the callback, if it is entered into callback, means that template creation is completed. So later what you want to do. Okay. So even if you see documentation, you see the example also. Exactly copy and paste and use. Maybe I'm just by reading I'm trying to show you. Okay. So here this is a record. Total 4 parameters. One is the object API name. Okay, so here that object API name, I think, do we have anything here? No. So let's say we know that we are dealing with the contact. So let's give contact. Okay, so contact, comma. The second attribute, if you see here, record type ID. We don't want any record type ID for now. Null. Null means it go with the default record type ID. I don't want any cache to store. I'm giving false. Callback, right? It gives the callback. To get the callback, say dot get callback, one of the function. Okay, so this holds the callback. Okay, so into this the function, whatever the function is there, that will come. But the return type, nothing is there. So in this function, nothing, because it is saying unknown. That means nothing. Okay, so just empty function here. The reason why we are writing, if it is completed, we get to know. It will enter here. Just here we do some check. So really here, is it loaded with some empty template? Because by default it is empty, right? I want to check. Okay. So for that, so I'm checking component.get v dot. So just I'm checking whether it is having some information or not. Right? So let's say new contact. Is it really loaded the empty template? Just checking. Okay. So here, and also, is there any error at the time of doing that? I think error we are storing into this attribute, right? So maybe I'm defining one more variable for error. Component.get v dot. Okay, so just I'll say if there is error, right? In case if there is some error, or so maybe template empty. So specifically, if there is nothing, it will be having null. I think. Okay. So I'm checking whether this new con is equal to null. Okay. So that means somehow it is not loaded properly. It should have other than null. Okay. So we'll say new record template not loaded properly is maybe not initiated properly. Else, this is for our understanding as a developer. Let's say console.log. Okay, we'll say record new template loaded. Okay, this is just for us to get to know really some empty structure, whatever needed to populate is loaded or not. So that's what this will do. Okay. Let's save this and really see until this it is working or not. We need to go step by step, right? So until this deploy, yes, I think there is some error. Aura attribute must be followed by either somewhere here. I might be forgot to end this properly. Deploy this entire component. So now, so go back just to reload. Okay, so click on inspect. In the console by this time, right? Either error or either whether it is created successfully should be printed, right? Record new template is loaded. I think it is loaded successfully, right? So that's it. So with that, I think the empty structure is loaded. Now into that structure, if you populate values into this, directly we are pointing whatever we entered into this record only. Right. Finally, after populating everything, so all we need to do is saving. Right. So let's save this record. Okay. So this time maybe in last example we saw how we validate the form. Again, I'm not repeating that. Okay. In case if you want to do validation, so similar thing what we did for previous example, we can do here. Anyway, this is the Lightning Data Service. System is also having capability if you maybe don't enter required fields in the callback, I think it will give the error. Okay, so now all we do on click on save, I'm going to write the logic to save. Right? So already whatever user enters will be stored into that contact record what we created. One click away. Once we click, then what is the logic? Okay, that in the controller I'm keeping. One more function I'm keeping. Function name on save. Okay, so here function component event. We are not using helper. Sorry, helper no need to mention that. Okay, so now here, so let's write the logic. Okay, now how to save? Okay, to save the record again, if you go back to the documentation, save record. All we need to do, we need to identify that component on the UI and initiate the save. For saving, no need to supply any parameter, right? So as a return type, I think only one callback function it is giving. Okay, so that's what. So we are getting similar to here what we did, right? Finding and saving, right? Same thing here we do. Finding, right? Finding this record ID, this one, and now as per the documentation, if you go and see save record, right? That's what we do. That's it. And for this, so really, so no need to supply any inputs like this, right? Only one callback is there. So the callback function only we need to define, right? So to get that callback, we say $a dot get callback. Callback. So into this, we have to write the function, right? So function. So after saving, so maybe the result, right? Whether it is really saved or any error, it gives some response. To hold that, I'm defining that. How I know is all based on by reading documentation, by seeing examples, you'll get to know. Okay. Now once the save is completed, we don't know really it is saved or due to some error it is failed. Somehow the result or response we get, right? So maybe if you want, you can say response like a server method call what we do, right? So here state. So I want to know the state. So result dot get state. I think this will be simply having state. So let's say I don't know what it will be having. So what we can also do, we can say console.log and print it, and in the console we see really this object, what exactly in this we are getting as a result. Okay, if you don't know what it will be having get state or it is having state. So after printing, by looking into that structure also, we get to know. Okay, I think this will be having state. Okay, so I think in the example here, maybe if you see a few more examples, somewhere we'll see that. Okay, so somehow what it gives is the state. Maybe I'll also show you when we try to save, it will also print this entire structure. I'll show you. That's our state will be there. So now, if this is success, so we just see what we can do. Otherwise, we show one message saying there is a fail. Okay, so here I'll say if the state is equal to success. Okay. So what we do, else what we are going to do, I'm going to keep here either for success or failure. I want to show a toast message. Okay. Let's say here constant say toast is equal to, we know to show the toast message dot get here event e dot force colon, I think show toast is the event. Okay, so this, we have to set the parameters. Set params. So here, each and every parameter. So maybe title, I'll say save. Right? Message. Let's say record saved. So the severity level in success scenario, the severity level I want to give as success. Right? I think I did not remember this. So for this, you can see that show toast event. In the component library, go to list of events, show toast. If you go to that event, okay, so if you go to the specification, right, this type is, I think I want success, right? So we have to follow that. Finally, fire it, right? Fire. Okay, in the same way, in case of failure, we'll say type as error, type error, and we'll say error, and here just maybe again error. The error string I want to append here. I think from this result, anyway, sometimes if we guess something wrong, did not remember, this might fail. Again, that time when you see this in the log, by reading that, we can again correct it. Okay, I think error, it holds the error and the error. But for when you are keeping this along with the string, somehow it won't give more details because error is an object. On UI, while showing, it will say object something. If you want more details of the object in detail in a string format, if you want to show the object information, so we use JSON dot stringify, and we are showing this one to show in a detailed way. Okay, so that's what we are doing, right? So let's see. Okay, maybe if you say else, maybe there are different states, right? Error is there and incomplete is there, and many other states are there. This is specially we are handling for error. Okay, even other than this error, something else, maybe incomplete or something else comes. So that time maybe it might not be having error object. At that time, for now, I'm not showing any toast message. Just I will say unknown error, and maybe state, we know the state. This state, whatever the state we have, that I am printing in the log. So this is the way. This is the way how we deal. Yeah, maybe keeping all this toast and all is optional, right? If you want to make it very, very easy, just to keep some console.log and say it is saved. And else it is not saved. That's it, right? There is nothing more logic is not there. Just a save record and a callback function. Up to that syntax, if you know the remaining thing, just we are enhancing the look and feel. So that's it. And now click on this button, save button. It will call this and it will save, right? But after saving in general, where it will go? it has to go to the record detail page, right? Still, we are not doing that. First, let's see if it is working, then that is the next phase. On successful say, it should be navigated to the record detail page. Okay. So now first save this component, deploy, go back. So now this is the one. Just refresh. So by this time, you see, you have to see a message, right? Record template loaded. It is loaded. So now we are going to save, right? Save, but validations it might not take care. Okay, so if you want to really validate, we have to do that. Maybe I'm populating everything. Yeah, click on save. So let's see what will happen. Save. So I think it is saved. Success. The record was saved. If you see, if you remember, I just printing the result to know the structure, how it is given. In case here, whatever state I am referring, whatever error I am referring, it might be wrong. Maybe exactly by looking into this, right? We'll get to know. So here we have state, right? Success we are getting. Error, undefined error. That means there is no error. That's why it is giving us undefined. I think if you want to refer record ID, so we can also get the record ID by referring into this. Okay, so like that. I mean, in few situations we need to explore and getting information like this. Okay, so now since it is working on successful save, it has to navigate to one of the record. Here we are also getting record ID, right? I want record ID. When you say result.record ID, so that will be having the record ID, right? So to navigate, okay, so we have again navigate event. Maybe again, if we don't know what we can do, we can see the list of events and we can try to find that. Okay. So let me show you. Go to the component library. These are the events. View as list. So I want to look for navigate to home or navigate to a particular record. Okay, all those things. We have navigate to a subject. Means it is to navigate to a particular record. Okay, I'm just opening that. So like this, we need to give. Right? So maybe to make it very, very simple, so I'm copying and it should be navigated to that. So let's say maybe this piece of logic, if you want to keep in helper, you can also keep in helper and call that, right? Again and again. Or directly if you want to keep, it is your wish. Okay, but mostly maybe since we are in maybe just a learning phase, mostly to avoid confusion, I'm directly writing in the controller. So what is happening when I create more files and when I type in more different files, people are confusing. So that's why I'm not using helper. I'm avoiding helper to avoid switching between these different files in this bundle. Okay, but the best approach is keeping most of the logic in the helper is one of the best approach. Okay, anyway, this is for navigation. To navigate, navigation event. So here we know the record ID, how to get the record ID, result dot. Here we are understanding how exactly it will give, right? Record ID. Okay. Slide dev name. What is that? That I don't want. Even I don't know what is that. Okay. So I don't want that. Maybe if you don't know how we can understand this, you can see this specification. This is the slide to navigate to by default charter and related. Maybe when you open the record, you have detail and related, right? Maybe it will highlight the related, I think, for that purpose. Okay, but I don't want to highlight related. That's why I'm removing that. Now this is for the navigation. Okay. Now let's again deploy. So go back. Maybe close it. Just to refresh again. Okay, I'm populating this information. Now, if everything is fine, after saving, it should navigate to that record. Right, it is navigated to that record. I think by default it is highlighted related. Okay. Maybe if you want to change this, I think there is the attribute. I think you can also give detail. Is it having detail? Detail also, so that it will highlight detail. So it's like that. Okay, so maybe for now we are fine with that. Now one of the other thing, cancel, right? When you click on new, sorry, click on context tab. When you click on new, for us, there is no way to cancel or close it, right? So technically, it's better to show the close icon also. At least cancel means it should close, right? So for that again, now this time we have a requirement to navigate to the home page, right? So maybe for on cancel, one of the function already we referred, but we did not define. On cancel function component event. So here one of the event to navigate to home, navigate to object home, right? Home means a home page, right? Object home means the record home page. So this I want. Navigate to object home, and all we need to do, give the API name of the object, right? Let's copy and give that, and API name of the object contact, right? It should go to the contact home. So that's it. Deploy. Okay, so now again go back and just refresh. cancel, right? It's navigating to this, right? Contact home. So like that. So with this, so we're done with this current example. So whatever we are discussing tomorrow, so there are other ways of navigating. Okay, so we have Lightning navigation service. Using that, how we navigate to a home page or maybe record page. Maybe while creating a new record, how we populate the record values, the default values. So such kind of things we'll discuss about that tomorrow. So before ending today, any questions, anyone? So now just checking. So is it complex or how you are feeling? So are able to follow or you are feeling very, very difficult, or just I want to know based on that. I'll prepare a few more examples.
At this stage, Srini, I will say it's on an average. It's not a complex or not so simple, but still on an average basis.
Okay, so you want me to take simple examples or maybe
No, examples are good. Examples are okay. We are good with actually, as far as me is concerned, I am happy with these kinds of examples. So these are the actual life scenarios instead of just saying calculate and all those things, right? Creating a calculator and all those things that could also be good. But again, those are not real life examples, which we are usually expecting into the development and delivery. These are the examples which are really helpful.
Okay.
But
so do you want any assignments?
Your voice is breaking, Srini.
Yeah. So, do you want any assignments, or you are not getting time to practice what I am explaining?
At this time I'm not getting a practice time to go to the practice. That is one thing. And again, I was just wondering, you were about to share us with the JavaScript video, right?
Yeah. So I'll share.
Yeah.
Maybe
Because I'm
I'll
finding
share.
difficulty with JavaScript. So maybe along with that help, it would be easy for us to understand JavaScript and the flow, how exactly we are going from component to the events and all those things.
So yeah, here I think we are not using more JavaScript, but wherever I'm maybe if you see reduce we use it, right? Whenever we using something, I think I'm trying to explain that. Yeah. Anyway, I will maybe plan to share those. Okay.
Sure.
So in LWC we use even more JavaScript.
Yeah.
Here at least we have this to hold our data. We have these attributes.
Actually, I was also wondering, maybe not at this moment, but going forward, if you can take some advanced example, it's like a integration kind of thing using Aura or LWC, those kinds of thing.
Yeah. I'll take.
Yeah.
I'll take maybe at least I'll give us some assignment and we discuss. Okay. So we'll do that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So maybe I have committed all these changes. I believe already you also know how to access these notes. Try to practice. We'll continue tomorrow. Okay. Thank you.
Srinu, sorry, one question. So at some point, are we going to use the handler as well, just to see how it works using both?
Helper, you mean to say?
Sorry, helper. Yeah.
Yeah. We use helper. So when I take some, maybe I'm going based on topic by topic and giving some examples. So the reason why I use it to explain by keeping everything in helper. Okay, what happened? People are confusing when I switch between UI to controller to helper. That's why just right. So just I'm directly writing in controller. Yeah, I'll give some examples where what is the best approach and most of the logic we write in the helper. Okay.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the assignments, like if it's optional, maybe you could give us some, at least try to find some time to practice. For me, I would say I would try to go through the video again and practice. But yeah, I'm not sure from your experience it's better for us to try to do it by ourselves. Just one small assignment, not every class, but sometimes where you think is good.
Yeah. That is good.
Yeah.
Always, if someone is interested, I give assignments. So what I do from tomorrow daily, I'll try to give small assignments. Okay. So that I think if you want to practice, maybe practice. So otherwise, maybe it's based on your interest. From tomorrow onwards, I will add small assignments daily, one assignment. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll continue tomorrow. Thank you.